I'm Peter. This is what my face looks like. Lucas, what does your face look like?
My face looks like this.
So I'm here with Lucas Martins. Get that right?
Yep.
Close to right?
Close to right.
And we've been, I like that honesty. He's a student, a rising junior. He's also a student leader in a lot of respects. And so I'm going to ask him 2 questions. He knows what I'm going to ask him. Then he's going to ask me 2 questions. I don't know what he's going to ask me. So my first question is, as you study, as you think about the future, as you lead a lot of student groups here at Sewanee, what gives you a sense of meaning and purpose?
All right. Well, first of all, that's a really great question. And as we were discussing before doing the video, I can speak my purpose comes from a very personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, the first time that I ever came to the U.S. was in 2015 through a scholarship. And just for a matter of background, I'm coming from Brazil, from the city of Rio de Janeiro, that one with the big Jesus statue on the top of the mountain that people might know. I mean, the audience may know. If they don't know the city, they know the statue, right? Yeah, that's usually how I introduce myself. But anyway, it's a beautiful city. It's a very wealthy city, but at the same time, it's a city that it's completely involved with social divisions.
Yeah.
The very much ones that are happening in the West right now as well, but in different degrees.
Yeah.
And the community that I'm coming from, struggles with a lot of social inequalities, with poverty, with people not having the opportunities to advance in life through education. And I was the first one of my community to ever leave and study abroad. So having that opportunity and coming to the U.S. and seeing, and I was placed in Chicago, in one of the wealthiest areas of Chicago. So just having the ability to navigate this both completely different worlds gave me the meaning that I could also come back at some point to my own community, to my own country, and become a platform, a bridge, so that other people can also get ahead in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. Yeah. And I come from the philosophy that society can be transformed.
Yeah.
Things are not naturally given. We can always do actions and policies and better actions so that we can improve the life of the collectivity.
Yeah.
And so that's the standpoint that I'm coming from.
Yeah. So reality is open.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
And if it's open, then it can be transformed, and also you can be helpful to folks in the way that you have been.
That I've been helped.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, college is super busy and can be super stressful. What feeds your soul? What feeds your spirit to kind of keep going in all of the studies and in the roles that you have?
My soul. Well, there's a lot of great questions today.
You knew it was coming.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was coming, definitely. I watched the other videos too. So, well, as also we were saying before, sometimes we get caught up in this sense that we're living in a dystopic world, where things are not changing, and sometimes we look at the news. If we consume all those news, we can start believing that things are not going to get better, because a lot of the things that are being shown are very pessimistic about the future. And the other day I was walking on campus and I saw this, I assume it was the father and the son, and then the son was like, it was a rainy day, and then the son was looking at the clouds, and the cloud was gray and heavy, and then the father was, stop paying attention to the clouds. It's just a cloud, You shouldn't be paying that much of attention to something so simple, because I think they were biking also. And at that point, I realized how, I don't know how to put it, but how dystopic and how sterile sometimes we can make the world look like. And something that would feed my soul is to have this ability to enchant the world again with a little bit more of a utopia.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting into idealism
Yeah.
right here, but I also believe that the society that we've been creating, based on self-centered ideology, on consumerism, on material stuff, stuff all the time that we have to consume
Yeah.
to feel, successful or worth of the love of God sometimes. And to be able to build connections organically, raw, human, just like the ones we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what feeds my soul on a daily basis.
Yeah.
To know that I can create these spaces of micro resistance against this ever increasing dystopic world.
Yeah.
So, so I find this in the little interactions that I have with you. I'm gonna live here and I'm gonna go to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna create community and find people that support me there as well. So this is the enchanting of the world that I find as a fool for my, for my life.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
We should stop right
I see
now.
it.
But you got to ask. You're going to ask me questions too. But that is so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So I make the questions now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so since we were discussing, the first time that I came to the U.S., I did not speak English very well.
Yeah.
I still don't know if I do. People will tell me in the comments. People will tell me in the comments. But I could definitely tell that music helped me both to learn English, to learn another language, and also to connect with people when I didn't have the skills to establish like a normal conversation like this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to ask you right now, what has been on your playlist, and what have you been listening during these times? Because I feel like that's going to reflect the mood that we all have right now.
Yeah. Right. So that's a good question. A number of folks already know this about me. I love John Prine, a singer-songwriter, originally from the Chicago area, but has lived in Nashville for decades. And pretty early on, he in this pandemic, he died of COVID.
Oh.
And he is somebody who plays really simple music, but his songwriting is deceptively simple, and it's also brilliant. And he has the ability, it's kind of like what you were just saying actually, his songwriting has the ability to sort of carry you right down into the kind of the hurt of the world. But he can find often the humor and certainly the humanity in the hurts, and it just gives you this sense of it's gonna be all right. Like, we're still in this together. And so both because of his death and because of the sort of music that he made, I've been listening to him a lot in this pandemic period. As somebody who was able to embrace the world as it is, broken and hurting as it is, and also not lose hope.
No.
So if you don't know him,
I don't know him.
I'm going to introduce him to you.
Yes, yes.
All right. What's your second question?
My second question is that a lot of folks, a lot of young people are now at home.
Yeah.
They're facing, they're going through times of uncertainties, which creates all this sense of anxiety, stress, distress, and agony.
Yeah.
In a more deeper level.
Yeah.
People are facing personal issues. Other groups like African Americans, they're facing collective issues.
Yeah.
Such as the historically segregation, of the country.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, what is your message of hope and what we can do on our daily basis to soften at least, or to be at peace, so that we can progress in discussing and acting towards a better future?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you gave me a great entree to sort of follow up with what you said earlier. I mean, I think I said this in a video that I recorded on my first day on the job, and I really mean it. I think that moving through the world as it is which is not the world as it should be. Moving through that constructively requires us to tell the truth about the world as it is, right? Don't deny it. Don't act like it's not there. And then it requires that we grieve it, right? Which is kind of what I heard you talking about. To say this is kind of dystopic, right? To grieve, to mourn the reality of the world as it is, and not to numb ourselves to it, because that's a real threat, a real danger, especially when we're having to spend all this time in isolation, to find ways to numb ourselves. That's the wrong way out. But to actually feel it, and when we do feel it, when we do mourn the way that the world is messed up, then that gives us the opportunity to say it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you don't mourn things that will never change. You mourn things that are messed up. And so then to say, all right, it doesn't have to be this way. How can I imagine a different world? How can I imagine something that, in my case as a preacher, that God might be doing, or inviting us to do differently? And oftentimes, that comes from, like you said, being in contact with folks, right? To say, you know what, I went out and I was at a low point, and then I was in contact with somebody at the farmer's market or wherever, and that reminded me that there is a different way of being, and what we have known doesn't have to be the way. So, I mean, I feel like that's me speaking kind of like big, but what it ultimately comes down to is tell the truth, feel, right, mourn, and then reach out and find those ways where the world seems open again and not closed off. And that's usually human connection. It's oftentimes art, right? Sometimes it's music. So that's my hunch.
Yeah.
Maybe that works for somebody. Maybe it works for you. Maybe it doesn't. It's worth what you paid for it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you for your time. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting. And thanks for everyone who's watching as well.
Yeah.